Workers, you have permission to return to your work once you have received the vaccine. But first, we must get to another episode of DSay's 9 at 9ish. I'm your host, Jeff Mader. We are covering Season 3, Episode 15, Destiny, an episode from 1995. But before we get into this, let's bring in all the guests and all the co-hosts of this program. We have my brother. We'll bring him on in first. Dave Mader.
Hello, good evening. And would you like a Ragova egg and some Kanar?
I like some bad Kanar, if you could leave that for me. And
if you could have the Tojal and Yamak sauce.
Yeah, and a card to Quark's Bar as a, come on down for some Yamak
The Cardassian commerce is going to be booming.
Oh, yeah. Quark's very excited.
No Vol fights. We won't be permitting any Vol fights.
No. Well, let's bring in our next co-host. Do we have both members of the tag team couple?
We do not.
We only have one. Kevin Millard. What's going on? You got anything to pump? Instagram, Twitter?
Yeah, all of them. They're all great. Just go use them.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Great.
His
That's great.
tweets are on fire.
You don't want to know what Kevin could tweet. He doesn't. But you don't want to know what he could.
It would break the universe.
It would. Okay, and we'll bring in our last co-host, always last but not least, Jaemeel Robinson. What's going on, Jaemeel? Side, what's going on? Oh, hello.
That's my TV credits intro. I'm like, hey, camera's on me.
Hello there.
Welcome to DSay's 9 at 9ish. It's not your first time on the program. Yeah, at 9, and it's not your first time on the program, and it won't be your last.
First time starting the program on time.
You could say it was his destiny.
Ooh.
I thought that you beat me to it.
You could, but should you?
Just to make you squirm. Yes.
Okay, so this episode kind of covers a lot of different things, a lot of different topics. We can talk about individual characters, but I'll kind of just break down kind of the general synopsis of this episode. Basically, what happens is a Bajoran guy comes to the station. But wait, first, two Cardassian women are coming to the station as scientists. So everyone's getting ready for their arrival. And then this Bajoran guy shows up and says there's a prophecy that there will be 3 Vipers.
You mean Vedic Yarka?
Vedic Yarka.
How can you forget about Vedic Yarka?
Oh, I didn't forget him. I was talking about him just now.
You didn't know his name. I just want to say.
Well, I don't really care what he's a Bajoran. I mean, if his name's like Kira.
Oh, is that how it is, Jeff?
He's a Bajoran.
Yeah, this Bajoran, man. Who cares about it's this actor?
He is in other things, this actor. I've seen him in
Yarrick Avari.
Yeah.
I feel like he should be protecting a grail or something. Like he's in a lot of those kind of movies.
Like, yeah, Indiana Jones. Yeah, is that where he's from?
Stargate.
Okay.
I don't think he's actually in Indiana Jones, but
yeah,
but he could be.
He was in The Mummy.
He's been in.
That's it.
Yeah,
The Mummy. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
He previously played a Klingon in, if you remember, Unification Part 1. He was the Bijik. He was the junior adjutant to Gowron. When Picard's like, hey, I need a cloaked ship to go find out what Spock's doing on Romulus, and he was like the guy that was like, well, Gowron doesn't want to talk to you right now, so would you like me to take a message? That was it.
Right. Yes. So the guy from The Mummy comes to the station. He's a Bajoran. What is he,
Vedic.
Dave?
He was a Vedic, but he was defrocked, Jeff.
He's a defrocked Vedic that's come to the station to tell Cisco, the emissary, all about this prophecy that he believes is coming true because of these. At the time, 2 Cardassian women ends up being 3 Cardassian women that are coming to the station, and he says that this is the prophecy that was laid out. We can read it out before, but basically it's like the rivers will flood and 3 Vipers will enter the nest, and then the temple will burn, and that's basically the gist of that. So then there's this kind of dilemma of like, at first even Kira's like, wait, I don't even know that prophecy, and then your boy.
She's quickly shamed. She doesn't know her verses, her Bible verses, Jeff. She doesn't know. She didn't pay enough attention in catechism.
And it's not just
She even gets a child.
Yeah. Even This
it's not just Vedic
defrocked Vedic Yarda. He's like, come on.
Even like, none of the other Vedics really call her child, but then this one comes out of nowhere. You're like,
okay. What her boy toy Vedic used to call her in bed. So
yes, we know. Those we're behind.
Ryle?
Yes.
We're done with him. I don't want to talk about him anymore.
We can't talk about it. Too soon to talk about him again.
He'll come back in another episode, so we will get to talk about him again. So we'll leave it to then.
Right. But even Kai Wynn is like, I don't care about this guy or his prophecies or whatever you say. Like, I've just made this great peace treaty with Cardassia. It made me a big deal. Get out of here, Yarda. And so Do you feel like that Vedic Wynn was supposed to play this role, and then maybe she was busy that week, and so they just filled it?
No, man.
Like
they're like, we got the mummy, dude, man. We're set. Well, this is before the mummy, but he plays.
This was the stepping stone to the mummy.
Yeah, he plays a certain type, so they knew what they were looking for when they made this role.
Okay,
it's tailor made.
He has a bit of an arc, though. He has like a redemption, and he's like, maybe I was wrong about things, and maybe I need to rethink how I think. He
sounds like a lot of religious figures, where it's like, oh yeah, well yeah, you could interpret it that way. So I was right in a sense. So
right enough that Cisco is 100% in now.
Cisco was like listening. He's like, tell me the story. Yeah. Tell me, this will make my job so much easier.
Tell me what's gonna happen.
Yeah. He's like, I can explain it to Starfleet through the space alien wormhole guys that are, omniscient and without time and all this kind of. It seems like
this is like an ethical thing you would have to even deal with at the academy, because you might run into situations where you would get knowledge of the future and ethically, what are you supposed to do with that knowledge?
Well, yeah, it has to be in the thing, because the amount of time travel in the Federation history is like, come on.
I don't know if you remember when Professor Berlinghoff Rasmussen came to the Enterprise, and Picard's like, tell me what's going to happen so I people won't die.
But do you think Cisco gives a shit about the ethics of it?
No. If any captain does it, it's him.
Speaking of Cisco really goes through an arc in this episode. We had just alluded to it that, he buys in at the end when the prophecy basically becomes true in a way that they interpret it to become true. So at the end of the day, I that's true. Like, this is like the transition of the whole speech he gives to Kira, where he's like, I'm a Starfleet officer first. And he's grappling with being the emissary and a Starfleet officer.
Entire approach wrong then, if he's gonna take what the teachings are and try to interpret them to his actions, because he's certainly learned during the course of this episode is he just does what he needs to do and it'll all work out. Don't second guess. His actions are what make the prophecy actually true.
He kind of has like a moment too. I feel like if I were in his shoes and I found out that, I'm the emissary and there's a prophecy and there's, definitely things that I haven't done yet in the prophecy, I'd be like, well, then I could risk, doing what he does in this episode, which is basically essentially flying with 3 comets in the shield bubble of is it a shuttlecraft or the Defiant? And they fly. Yeah, it's a little pod, and they fly that through the wormhole, and basically the selenium that's in the wormhole goes back into the wormhole, which is what needed to go back, and then they protect it and fly through the other side, and it works out, and Cisco saves the day, and then they were like, oh, those were the 3 Vipers. The 3 comets were the 3 Vipers, and that was what needed to return to its nest, and that was what the whole prophecy. It was all celestial. It had nothing to do with Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine was never even built when that prophecy.
It was the nest
occurred.
In the sky, wasn't it?
I don't believe so. I think the wormhole was the nest in the sky.
That was the temple. This prophecy. No. This was like Nostradamus, like fan fiction.
Right. It is. It definitely is. But it's also a great metaphor for how people interpret biblical texts. Cisco says at one point, it's like, how can we rely on something that was written 3,000 years ago in general metaphors? And
translated again.
Well, and humans are really good at pattern matching. So when we see things that are almost right, we'll be like, yeah, that was right. That was absolutely what happened, right? We're fitting the facts of what happened back into the prophecy.
Yeah. And people in general like to grasp onto ideas of things coming true, being foretold, and coming true. The Leafs winning a Stanley Cup again. Not gonna happen. Every year we keep on getting this. It's like, no, the prophecy is you guys gonna lose.
Jeff, do you subscribe to that interpretation of the prophecy? He doesn't. He's a loss for words.
This is a perfect time for me to bring that up.
Tell if he's frozen or just unimpressed, Dave.
He's beyond unimpressed. I think.
All I thought during this episode is Dak's interpretation of the metaphor is like, I just had 3 burritos, and I'm pretty sure those 3 comments had a lot of trouble and set fire to my celestial temple when it was coming out the back end.
Yeah,
right?
Like it can be interpreted anyway.
Attuned interpretation. So when are you gonna make sure that it lines up with your situation? Like, you're absolutely right. Like, there's this is just like the prophecy. And then you're like, oh, this is just like the prophecy too. It's like, so which one is it? We just pick and choose whatever fits our narrative.
Yeah, it's you could make that argument, but if you're talking about something like horoscopes or whatever, that's definitely real. Just to get that out of the way, we're not seeing patterns there. That's real.
Jeez.
That's when I'm on the record.
Lord.
I'm definitely not seeing patterns there.
Okay, so we've lost.
I only believe in horoscopes and the fact that people believe in them. That's the only thing I believe in it. Right? I believe that people believe in it.
Is Jeff back yet? Okay, he's not back yet. Okay, so Jaemeel, since you're on top, you have to lead the next part of this conversation.
I just have to.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk more about Dax and her celestial temple.
No. Okay.
So we had also the B storyline in this episode, which is the dynamic between one of the Cardassian engineers and O'Brien, and the aggression that was brought forth in their whole interaction. So initially, we have the impression that, and I feel pretty terrible that I can't bring up the exact name. This is where Dave comes in immediately. Just actually,
the name of the Cardassian who's romancing with O'Brien.
Yes,
her character name is Galora Rajal, but
but she was played by Tracy Snoggins, I think.
Or Jeff is back, but and just I had to wait for Jeff to come back because I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to point out that the character we're speaking of right now, Galora Rajal, as played by the great Tracy Scoggins, comes from another
excellent on the New Adventures of Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman.
She was the commander of Babylon 5
else that she's in
season
her
5.
That was the best part of her career, which is Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman, where she played Kat for the first 2 seasons. We don't need to speak anything else of what she did. No need to mention.
She became the commander. She was like the Ezri Dax of Babylon 5.
So she did Babylon 5 after this show?
Yeah, this would have been after. She would have been doing Babylon 5 after.
Probably why I've never heard of her. She did Babylon 5, and then that was it.
That was the end of her career? No, she played a Cardassian love interest for O'Brien.
Sort of. She thought O'Brien wanted to make babies with her, and O'Brien was like, "Wait, what?"
He thought that O'Brien wanted a physical relationship.
This was the hottest Cardassian they could imagine. In 1995.
Tracy Scoggins is a very attractive lady. I don't know.
She's 1995 hot for sure. If you look
what's that mean?
1995 hot.
Well, there was the eyebrows or that thickness, and they got the bangs, and there's also.
Dave, what were you expecting? Cardassian cleavage? It's not unprecedented, Jaemeel. We've had Cardassian cleavage before, if you remember. I'm just saying that doesn't seem like it would make her seem more like a harlot or a hussy.
Oh my God.
Than a respected scientist.
She's 2005 hot. 2005 hot.
1995 hot.
That's 2005 hot, not 1995 hot.
1995
hot.
That's 2015 hot.
Yeah, when, like I should ask for a signature from her and just say like, can you put 1995 hot as per Dave? Who's Dave? Well,
Write it to Dave.
yes. But she was great on Lois and Clark.
Right.
She was great. I remember her on Lois and Clark. I remember the character of
Yeah.
Kat. I'm with you. She was also in some episodes of Highlander, the series.
And
What
Baywatch.
What do you guys make of the scene with Bashir walking with Kira to, I think it's Kira,
Yeah.
telling Kira all about how Morn came into the infirmary because he said he had some bad Kanar, from Quarks.
I don't remember this at all. Did I miss a scene?
Yeah, I do remember this distinctly, and I'm like, can we follow this? I want this C storyline should be wrapped up by the end of it.
I didn't even see Bashir in this episode.
Neither
It
did
was.
I.
Yeah.
The Vedic interrupted Kira to go talk to her,
Hmm.
to convince her to talk to the Cisco oil, the Cisco.
Yeah, Bashir says, Kira says he should ask for a refund, and then Bashir goes, no, it was on the house. That's what was weird about it.
That's yeah. So if he's giving it away.
The Kanar.
Yeah. Bashir has literally 4 lines in this episode.
Yep.
Otherwise, nothing to
He
do.
gets a paycheck.
Yeah, well, he was there.
So I didn't think much of it. I completely missed it, and it was inconsequential. But
Well, I thought.
He's
I
like, well,
mean,
thank you
was
for my performance.
it was a Bashir sighting, so I thought I would take note.
it's worth it. So he's no.
But with Kira, so the relationship is budding.
What do we make of the 3 Cardassian women? Do we like them? Did you like their introduction to the story? Did you get to know more about the Cardassians that you didn't know before?
I like them. I actually oddly like this episode, even though not a whole lot happens. But
Yeah,
I like them. I like the first 2 anyway. Obviously, you're not supposed to really like the third.
the third one does a great job of making you not like them from the jump.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, here I got a couple pictures of them here. So this one, she was like the lead scientist, not Tracy Scogans. Her name is Ulani Balor, as played by Wendy Roby. Wendy Roby, and then we also have that's Tracy Scogans is Galora Rajal.
1995 hot.
1995 hot, and also we have the Cardassian women. We don't see a lot of we see some Cardassian women, but it's kind of a mix, and they always have these bright blue spoonhead things going on.
Dave, we never meet Goldicott's wife. Like we don't meet a lot of Cardassian people. Really?
No.
She's probably 1986 hot. That's why
not as many as you think we would. No. It's not 1996 yet.
The makeup is like it's a thing. They have to sit in that chair for a while to do that makeup.
Okay, here's the question: Are the women? Do they just naturally have blue spots and things, or is this part of their makeup?
I don't know if I think it's. I always thought it was part of like who they were. I didn't think it was.
Yeah, I think since all of them do it all of the time, it's probably part of them. Like it's probably not.
Could be lipstick.
So
like,
it's
the women wear
lipstick. The men do not have this. It's just gray.
Yeah, women wear lipstick, but they wear different colors of lipstick. These are all exactly the same color. All the blue.
Right. This is Dejar. She was the operative from the Obsidian Order.
Also, if you look at her neck, she has the blue on her neck too.
Yeah.
Right. And they always have very interesting hair pieces. I gotta say, like
yeah, that looks very like like samurai or like Elvis, or something going on there. I don't know what's going on. That's a lot of hair sitting on that head.
Yeah,
it's a lot of hair sitting up on that head.
I mean, it is. Look at compared to Kira's hair. I mean, that's gotta weigh some. That's gotta weigh.
And Kira's got a good head of hair under there. She's got that comb over thing going on, and that part.
She's got the high collar, which Dave approves of. Dave's not a big fan of the Bajoran uniform.
No, not the uniform. No, but it's.
You preferred her in the Starfleet uniform.
I did, and I wish she had stayed in it.
Which I see why they didn't keep her in the Starfleet uniform, because the Bajoran one gets to be all tight fit.
She had like 4 scenes left.
But she kind of
leave her in the uniform.
She's a cowboy sometimes too.
Yeah,
like it's always like I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah,
We've got somewhere to be. Just walking with
Constable. She's the deputy. She deputizes.
And speaking of Constable, you're absolutely right. I think one of the unsung heroes of this episode is Constable Odo and his sequence.
Well, his scene with Cisco.
Agendas. Yeah, with Cisco. I thought that was a great scene.
I hated it because I was like, "Where are you coming from, Odo? You're so weird. Like you come out of nowhere. You want to talk to Cisco about this, right? It's just because Odo is so seldom an advisor to Cisco, right? And so this is like it just feels, and because it's so seldom, it feels so out of place here, because he's like, do you like being a religious figure? And Cisco's like, I don't know. And he's like, whoa, he's like, just being like, not really helping anything, just kind of poking at Cisco, making him like ask questions and then he's like, get the hell out of here. See you later.
Well, Odo is kind of creepy when he gives advice because he always starts it with, I've been watching humans for a long time. Like, basically, I've been watching you, and here are some observations.
Right, because he's supposed to be the Data or the Spock of this show. But it just doesn't work for me because he's supposed to be like this outsider. Even like the Doctor is in Voyager, or even 7 of 9 is in Voyager because she's so different from the rest. And Odo's different too, but when he's like, I've been observing this, or I'm going to try to talk to you about that. It just because his character is established as just being a grumpy guy who's not really too concerned with what's going on around him.
I would say if you were gonna compare Odo to a character on Voyager, it would be Tuvok. Like they have very similar viewpoints on security, investigations, those type of things.
I actually would say that Harry Kim is who he's most like.
Harry Kim is the most like Odo?
Yeah. Because he's young. He's very young. Odo's still in his adolescence.
Horny.
Yeah.
Hung up on a girl.
So they're at a similar stage of their lives.
In their life, yeah. Dave, would you prefer if Odo had like a mic stand and like a brick background when he did his observational?
Yes, I would. And a cigarette with rolled up sleeves and a ponytail.
Hey, you humans, whenever I see you.
I think from a writer's room perspective, when sometimes they're asking like, well, Odo's supposed to be this, so I'm going to throw Odo into this scene. And I just think sometimes it doesn't fit actually who Odo is and what he's good at or what scenes he actually belongs in. And here I think they were trying to have like sort of an ensemble episode where Cisco kind of has to talk to all of his officers and Odo, not Bashir,
except
of course.
Bashir.
Yeah, Bashir is busy with food poisoning cases from Bad Kanar. So who cares what Bashir thinks? But Odo, what do you think?
Odo, and he approaches it very much like an investigation. He's like, it seems like you, Cisco, are trying to come to grips with you as the emissary, and he's giving him that kind of advice, right?
Well, okay, but my other thing too is Odo really only talks to people about this kind of stuff when he wants to tease them or poke fun at them or get under their skin, right? So, but he doesn't do that with Cisco. So, like, that's the other thing too. He's not really being Odo, he's kind of talking to Cisco like they're friends, but they just don't have that relationship. They just don't have like I think Cisco and Odo are two of the most removed.
But every time, like, I'm sure they said to the writers, like, every time, like, Odo and Cisco have a scene, it's usually Odo arguing about his duties being stripped from him and being given to Starfleet.
How he can't run a police state. He's like, if you let me run like a Gestapo here, I would have everything under control.
Yeah, and I think that they probably went to the writers and said, we need to have a scene at some point where Odo and Cisco have a relationship that is more friendly and more, that kind of idea.
And this is their attempt at it.
Yeah.
I see Cisco and Odo more like father-son rather than friends. Like Cisco is kind of, because Odo's always whining to Cisco at the beginning anyway, in the first season, right? It's always like, oh, well, I'll just leave and I'll throw this tantrum if I don't get what I want. And if I don't get another thing, I'll throw another tantrum. right?
Starfleet.
Right. Well, kind of like Worf and Picard had that dynamic, and into a certain extent, like, you know, even Wesley Crusher, or Data. But I never felt like Sisko and Odo were father son, really. Like, I think they tried it, or they tried to like position it like that, but because it's Rene Auberjonois cannot be his son, because also Sisko has a son, and his relationship with Jake is not like his relationship with Odo.
It wasn't for Sisko to do.
What I mean is, though, it's like the authority, and Odo is always butting up against that authority.
Yes, but that's my point. Is Kevin, is that seemed to be the only time these two characters were ever in the same room having a conversation together. And I think they made a concerted effort in this episode to do a conversation between these two people. It is weird because you never see it again, even, I don't think, because they realize it's like it doesn't, like you said, David, it falls flat. It doesn't seem to work. Because there is that father-son dynamic, but there's also supposed to be a friendship dynamic, but it's not really like Picard ever had with Data or Sisko had with Spock. Like, there's never a friendship between Sisko and Odo that it's really believable, honestly. Like when Odo goes missing or something, like, it's not like Sisko's never like, oh no, I need to get Odo back. You know, he's always like, Odo will figure it out. Odo,
even when he goes out of his way, he really only cares about Odo because she's important to Kira. Or he's important to Kira. I think that's really the extent of his value. He's kind of like a piece in the puzzle that he needs to keep the Bajorans happy, right? Because more specifically, Kira.
He's Kira's pet.
He's Kira's pet, kind of. Right?
Your dog is missing.
Also, Sisko keeps people around that are useful, and he can look at Odo and be like, "Well, you're not a great security chief, but you can change into things."
Yes.
So
you are.
You're basically a member of a species that happens to be incredibly important now.
Yeah.
You could be a member of the Avengers, and so I think you can be on my team.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's kind of what Sisko's going for, and then I do think he values him as an asset more. Almost more than anything.
He's an asset, but like, I think like you know, I remember George Primin and where's Eddington at this point? We haven't seen him pop up too much so far, but like, Starfleet security officer, doing the job. But I not that I hate Odo as a character, I just find he's kind of useless.
He is in these moments because he doesn't have a connection with Sisko, and it's like this episode is about Sisko.
And there's no way Sisko would want. He's like, I got to know what Odo thinks about this.
That's
Let me look back at Odo and see what he says now.
What does he think about Bajor prophecies?
But at the time in season 3, they were probably like, well, maybe this will work, and maybe we'll continue to do it. And then clearly that didn't happen.
They decided that wasn't a good idea before the end of this episode. They had Dax come in and give him advice instead.
And
that worked way better. The only thing would have been it would have worked better if it was Quark. He has a stronger rapport with Quark than he does with Odo.
True.
It's so true, and that's why I don't. I agree.
In the culinary industry as well.
That's why I agree that the Data and the Spock references to Odo don't really work because of that relationship with their captains. Odo is on an island. He almost doesn't have a relationship with Sisko, and it's because like these scenes don't work because I do think we have the jazz musician actor in Avery Brooks, and then we have Rene Auberjonois doing his thing with Odo, which is also a very cerebral type performance.
For what they were trying to go for, I think it's the biggest misfire of this cast. In turn, as good as this show is, I think if you want to say, okay, like Avery Brooks is our lead, and Rene Auberjonois, he's our Spock character, he's our Brent Spiner, like the character that the fans are just going to be fascinated and in love and entranced with because they speak to the human condition, and it just didn't work with Odo in that way, right? He was never as popular as Data or Spock, and never will be. You know, he's amongst the ensemble of Deep Space Nine. He's a member. He's an important.
He wasn't even 1995 hot.
He wasn't even 1995 hot. Not until 2005 when he'd be doing Boston
I
Legal
love
with
it.
Shatner and whatever.
Yeah.
What do you guys say about that, Jeff?
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't work. But at the same time, I don't think it works because Odo's, for me, the main thing about his character is that he was kind of like this child that basically grew out of goo, and he's still learning who he is. He's like an adolescent. Like he is like
This
a teenager.
child has a growly voice. Well, sounds like he smokes 3 packs a day.
Yeah.
He's just like
Yeah.
Baby Herman.
And he,
Well,
and he
casting his type, I guess. But
that's the thing is, he sounds and he kind of looks like he's been around the block. He sounds like he's an old police detective that's been on the force for 30 years and he's near retirement. But then at the same time, no, he's actually an adolescent that is trying to learn the world and figure out how horny he can be, and these type of ideas, where he came from and who he wants to be. And that's to me where it falls flat. Think
about last week's episode, Heart of Stone. It was super focused on Odo. Did it wow?
I liked the investigation, like reveal part or whatever at the end, but everything leading up to that, I thought wasn't great. It was good maybe in retrospect as far as like the Dominion angle, but that's about it.
Right? Like, so
they don't
anyway.
I like Odo as a character and I like his progression through the whole show, but in these beginning seasons, they don't interact with him a whole lot. Like he is, you're right when you say he's kind of an island. Mm-hmm. All of his stories are kind of just about him, and they're not.
And when they bring in the Dominion, it's like, well, yeah, that is related to Odo, and we can still do an Odo story because we're dealing with the Dominion quite a bit. And that's kind of how
it saved his character. It saved his character.
It definitely did, because then they could bring the female founder of the station, and he could go have sex with her for like 10 hours in a row. And
we're like, that's what this show needs.
Everybody got together in the writer's room and went, how do we dehydrate goo?
Let's get to
work. Looking dehydrated.
Hey, I think 1995 hot. That's what this is.
I think if we call up Industrial Light and Magic, they'll have just the thing.
Dehydrate goo. Oh, that's great. I don't care what that is. Oh my god.
Okay, so let's get to the cream of this. The cream of this episode, though, the thing that everybody really wants to talk about with this episode, and that is O'Brien. O'Brien and this episode. Do you have any sound? Come on, do we have any sound clips of O'Brien in this episode? Do you have any?
No, there would have been some good ones.
I love my wife.
I love my wife.
Happily.
Oh, whoops.
I loved my parents.
What are you talking
about?
about?
Bajor and your plants and Sabar. See if I care.
Yeah, he's like, I already have a wife and a child.
No, he said the child first. I have a child and a wife, but he took a second to remember.
Yeah.
I was like, yes.
Yeah, she's like, you're married? He's like, yes, happily. And we're like, are you?
But her response to him is something I feel like Garrick would have said. When she says, I thought that you wished to pursue some physical relationship. Like, what did she say? What's the full quote? What's that?
She's like, trust me, I'm very fertile.
Yeah.
I can assure you I'm very fertile. You don't need to be concerned.
Very many children.
Yeah, I can give you lots of children. But you're getting ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
She says. She says that why have you been? I took your overt irritability toward me as a signal that you wish to pursue some physical relationship. So I feel like that's some Garrick, or like it's just like the way it was written. I was like, that was pretty great.
Yeah.
Well, I like
it's the Cardassian culture.
The idea of cross-cultural misunderstanding, I think, is like the one beacon of light in this episode. I think it's an actual interesting thing to throw in here. It gives us a little bit of like what are the real life idiosyncrasies of sort of living in this multi-species society that they do, this world that they live in.
Yeah, well, she was like belittling him, telling him like, "Oh, well, women are better than men at everything, pretty much science and engineering, and you suck." And he got pretty offended by that, and and then they just basically argued the whole time, and then she gets to the point where he's like, "Hey, he's not backing down." I'm guessing that's that's
why?
time,
because he believes in a second backup.
Second backup.
She's like, what are the chances a primary and the backup would go down? He's like, pretty unlikely, but in a pinch, I don't want to get caught without my second backup.
Should have just looked at her and went, "Are you kidding me? It happens to me all the time. Almost every episode."
Yeah. He's always under
like,
some relay box.
When the defense systems went down, he should have turned to her. He's like, "You see? You see?
You see? You need that second backup."
Would like that second backup now, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So I think that's my only part of this episode that I think is really interesting. I think that a lot of the stuff around the prophecy stuff doesn't really land for me on the rewatch.
I liked it. I'm with Kevin. This entire episode I felt was so simplistic, but there is an elegance in simplicity, and I think they found it a healthy balance across it. It wasn't like stupid foolishness that was happening in the background. The B story made sense and was interesting, and the A story, they put enough into it for me to be able to watch it, pay attention, and not feel bored out of my damn mind or feel patronized somehow with some over-the-top, we want to be soft about how we're approaching, Bajoran religion, so I appreciated the episode.
Well, like the net result of this is that they can now have communications across the wormhole. This is what we had to get through.
That's what the comet did when it went through the wormhole. It released a trace amount of silithium, and that is what allowed the communication signal to occur. And so, yeah, it's pretty interesting, that part of it, I guess. But at the same time, the religious prophecy is kind of the net result here, is like we kind of said earlier, that Sisko is now going to be a believer. This is the crossover episode for me. This is now he's all in on the emissary.
He's really starting to take a step, towards embracing this.
Too, now that Kira is going to start talking about that more and more around him, and it's really the real start of the emissary sort of story. They had to have a conversation like, I'm going to be like calling you the emissary, and don't think it's weird, because we're going to.
Here's my question: if we had completely skipped season 2, and it hadn't this was the season 2, would it have made a difference at all?
No.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I'm trying to think.
What do you mean? Would it have made a difference
in terms of the quality of the show? Because I feel like a lot of that season 2 time was wasted.
Yeah, they didn't know what to do with the show yet.
They were just figuring it out.
There a couple of quality episodes. It was a complete waste of time.
I think sometimes with a show like Lost, they knew they wanted to do 5 seasons or whatever, and they knew basically what their story was going to be. I think in Deep Space Nine, when they started the show, they didn't really know what they wanted to do other than the wormhole and a little bit of the Bajoran stuff.
And really, season 1 and season 2, because they were there was no break for those guys. They started in January of '93, and they pretty much been going straight. They had a bit of a break between 2 and 3, but really season 2, they might have had a couple weeks off tops before they had to go back and film it, right?
In retrospect, if to do it again, they could have just put it into one season 1 and 2.
Yeah,
and just took the best of it, including Move Along Home, because we're not getting rid of that.
Because you're talking about 46 episodes between those two seasons.
Yeah,
right. And there's probably a good season in there.
Yeah, we can get rid of the vortex.
Yeah,
for sure.
Vortex,
we'll go through it in the ratings, which ones we would get rid of from 1 and 2 to make one season.
Good. Take us out of your precious vortex.
Even at the end of it, it sounds like
Yeah. Just really gives a good sigh right at the end.
Is it like they said the name of the title? They said the name of the title.
Yeah, I wrote it right into the script. I'm a genius.
Okay. I'm kind of done talking about like the plot of the episode. If there's anything else you guys want to bring up or any character that
Jeff,
you think.
Jeff, may I ask you who else is 1995 hot? I'm very curious about this.
When you think 1995 hot, what do you think of?
Carmen Electra.
1995 hot? Wouldn't you say 99 or
Yeah,
98?
Carmen Electra is not 95.
Is that
Yeah,
is that too
98?
early? Is that 98, 99?
She wasn't even on Baywatch, I think, at that time.
Why?
Pamela
I thought she was,
Anderson?
like-
Would Pamela Anderson be 1995 hot?
I think Pamela Anderson's 1995 hot.
All right.
I'm willing to endorse that.
What, Pamela Anderson?
Yeah.
So what would be around 95 would be early Baywatch. So I would say
We're not into Baywatch Nights yet.
not Baywatch Nights. No, not Baywatch Nights. Dun, 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 dun. I know the theme song. It's great. After the nights go down. What's the name? It's what's the name? The one that went to California Dreams. I think she was on 95. 95.
The one who went to California Dreams. Who's?
Yeah, she went on. She was on the show California Dreams.
I don't even know what that is. Like
The show, the NBC show, California Dreams.
No.
I've never even heard of it.
No, never.
No.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Wait,
That's
am I
a little-
missing something like the hit show California Dreams?
Yeah, it's like Saved by the Bell, California Dreams. Like this
Wow.
is like important
This is
information that you need to know as a human being. growing
Okay,
up in this
well,
world.
you know, then have I been missing out? Here we come,
Jam-
California Dreams.
California
Jaemeel,
Dreams.
this is the fun fact before the fun facts.
Ooh,
Is it about Babylon 5?
no, please no.
No, he said fun.
No,
Oh,
fun. I know it started with an F, but Babylon 5 is not fun.
no. 5 starts with an F.
All I remember, Dave, even when you first showed me Babylon 5 back in the day, is I would watch it and I would think, like, I would just be like, this is boring. And this is just like I
You just don't get it.
I-
It's for the sophisticated type, I think.
And you know what? And I thought that when I first watched Game of Thrones, and then I really liked it. I had to watch it like 5 times, you know, at the beginning to figure out where everything was and what the hell was going on.
Babylon 5 is amazing. I will
I don't know what amazing. I've never heard anybody come out and go, Babylon 5 is the best show.
Literally,
Yeah.
in
the
my
only
memory, in my
person I
mind,
have-
I'm not
the
like
only
sitting-
person I have ever heard talk about Babylon 5 ever is Dave.
Look, Dave, I appreciate you. I appreciate your spirit. But like, not even Star Wars fans would even like if you tried bringing that up in an argument about sci-fi, they'll go like, okay, Stargate, okay, Star Trek, Babylon 5. They'll be like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
Are you saying it's sub tier? It's not even in the cover. Like you're putting like Stargate ahead of Babylon 5?
People know Stargate before Babylon 5, dude.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Are you wait? Are you being serious? Do you honestly think that people
Well,
know?
I thought they
Babylon
were
5
at least
more
in
than
the
Stargate?
same. I thought they were at least in the same category.
No, no,
man.
Babylon 5 and Farscape are the same category.
Farscape.
Babylon 5's kind of like the Clerks, you know.
Babylon
like
5
not
had its own
everybody-
spin-off.
Nobody,
Excalibur.
yeah, like people know it, but not everybody's really watched it, you know. Like
Made for TV movies. A whole bunch of them.
Tom Selleck has had a career filled with made-for-TV movies.
Well,
Can you name any of them?
there's some good stuff there. You know,
No.
with the
I'm not Dave. I'm not commenting about the quality of it. I'm sure that Babylon 5 is a fine program that
fine.
has a lot of interesting concepts.
Great, interesting
right? I'm being
stuff.
serious. Look, straight face, right? But like, it's not well known. Right?
Well,
It's
it's a hidden gem. It's just
Okay,
waiting to be
there you go.
discovered.
there you go. I just got
95.
to do
It's
some
not
cleanup,
95.
Jeff, before you do fun facts. I got to do some cleanup. So I was mentioning California Dreams. Kelly Packard, she joined Baywatch later on in her career. I was talking about Nicole Egbert, who left Baywatch before 95, so she can't be considered 95 hot. It would be more Yasmin Bleeth that would be considered 95 hot.
Okay, even better.
But
Solid
yes,
choice. Yeah.
yes.
Yasmin
Carmen
Bleeth,
Electra
Tracy Scogans, Claudia Christensen,
which would be 90, about 98, 97. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are you ready for some fun facts?
Yes. Hit the theme song.
Oh, I'm not hitting the theme song.
Oh,
Okay. It's too long, and Dave always turns, poo-poos it.
I don't. Well, I we were telling them on Wednesday about the theme song, and they were like, I don't know what this like.
Of course. Well, if you were poo-pooing it.
I think the theme song is the Babylon 5 of this entire episode.
It's the only thing that
you like it or not. I don't get
the only piece of music that's been created for this channel.
Well, it can use a rendition. We can get a redo. Like Eamon Mater, he's a musician.
No, he can do it. I don't care. As long as
fun facts.
It's fun. It's Double F with Jeff. Okay, welcome to Double F with Jeff. Thanks, Jeff from D9 and 9ish. We are into our first fun fact. While in Cardassian makeup, actress Tracy Scoggins, Gloria Rajal.
How many? I've said it like 20 times tonight.
Dave, I don't care.
You usually precede or after it with Babylon 5, and it just becomes mush to his brain.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about Babylon 5 all day. Actress, took the opportunity to walk around the Paramount lot, scaring school children on buses before security called the DS9 set, saying, quote, "Could y'all do something about keeping your aliens contained over there?" End quote.
I love that. That's amazing.
That was Tracy Scoggins.
That was Tracy Scoggins.
She was scaring the children with that.
Yavik sauce was first seen in the first season episode Star Trek DS9 Progress, and was created by former series producer Peter Allen Fields. Ira Stephen Bear said of its inclusion in this episode, two of the things Fields gave us were Yamik sauce and self-sealing stem bolts. They're silly names, and I like silly names, so every now and then we just like to bring them back. End quote.
There you go.
Okay. There you go.
Spoiler alert about next season.
If you want to eat it with some human food, it's known to be enjoyable with asparagus, Jeff.
Ew. Okay. Renee Echeverria oversaw most of the final stages of the story development and even came up with number 34 and number 35 of the Ferengi Rules of Acquisition with the approval of Ira Stephen Bear. I guess he had to ask.
If you could add, the war is good for business and peace is good for business.
Yeah, and that we didn't mention that, but that is a great moment in the episode where Dax says to Quark, the peace is good for business. Yeah. That's the 35th
rule of acquisition is peace is good for business, and he's like, oh, you got it confused with the 35th.
Yeah,
and she's like, what's the 34th? War is good for business.
Yeah, so great. Okay, the original draft included the rule of acquisition, quote, faith can move mountains of inventory. This was created by David S. Cohen and Martin A. Weiner. Though this did not make it into the final script, Ira Stephen Bear liked it so much that he included it in his books. The Ferengi Rules of Acquisition, page 50, and Legends of the Ferengi, pages 86 and 87, where it is number 104. Screenplays. That's a fellow. So those are the two rules of acquisition mentioned. The comment the visual effects team developed for this episode was a model built by Tony Menninger and was not a computer generated image. The artistic challenge, according to Gary Hutzel, was determining what the inside of a comet looks like. That was the logistical challenge.
That was the challenge?
That was the challenge. Okay. One of the sets that was created for the Defiant is the generic crew cabin where Sisko and Kira go to discuss the Sword of Stars, which thanks to 3 removable or wild walls, has a number of possible looks. As Robert Della Sentina explains, there was one wall that isn't wild. It's the one that includes the doorway. That's a double-faced wall that also serves as part of the corridor, but the director can pull out any of the other walls to give the room any one of the 3 different looks.
Yeah, I sometimes have issues with the Defiance set, like that. There's not a room for them to have like a proper conversation. They have to have they have to go to like into the bunk bed room to have like a.
It is weird because
and captain conversation.
Like when you consider even like Janeway's ready room in Voyager, it's not much bigger than the room that Kira and Sisko are sitting in.
Even if you think about like the NX-01, like and like Archer's ship, like he even has a ready room, right? Like the Defiant is a small ship, but it's still 4 decks. There's room for you to build a room for like a little meeting room. There's room.
There should be
fit that into your ship.
You would think on especially a tactical type ship, you would have some sort of boardroom where you could study things.
It's just or ready room or somewhere for the captain to talk to one other person.
Yeah.
No. Do it in the public.
Yeah.
Embarrass the person right there.
Okay, so the relay station is a reuse of the Armagosa observatory model from Generations. Gary Hutzel also had the job of adjusting it to appear in this episode. Quote, in the feature, it has extremely long extensions on it. So basically, I took a saw to it. We cut off the extensions and redesigned a couple of elements and did a new paint job. End quote. The script describes it as being the size of a runabout with high-tech antennae and communication gear. That's the relay station.
So yeah, more reuses, more budget cuts.
Okay, this episode was originally pitched by David S. Cohen and Martin Weiner as a second season episode. It was purchased by the producers who assigned Cohen and Weiner to write the teleplay, but it never made it into production, primarily because it focused on a prophecy of happiness and joy, an idea that, according to the producers, didn't make for a very exciting episode. Renee Echevarria, who made an uncredited rewrite of this script, recalls, quote, the early draft had a lot of nice stuff in it. It was done very lyrically, and the writers had a lovely poem concerning Dracora's prophecy, ... A wonderful thing that was going to happen, a miracle, and Sisko was told that he was going to be a part of it. A miracle was happening. So why was that bad? Why would Sisko not want to be a part of it? End quote.
So they had to write it so that it would be bad. Like there's something bad.
Interpretation would be considered bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the prophecy of Dracora in this episode resembles the writings of Michael de Nostradamus, 16th century Frenchman, better known as Nostradamus. This Frenchman was said to have written extensively about important 19th, 20th, and 21st century events in a metaphorical language that could only be interpreted correctly in retrospect.
And he was 1995 hot Nostradamus. Everyone was big on his prophecy.
We have a new Nostradamus now, and that's The Simpsons.
Yeah. Matt Groening is the new Nostradamus. Yeah. This episode makes reference to the Bajorian-Cardassian treaty established in Life Support.
It was like 2 episodes ago.
Yeah. Fun fact. The character of Yarka was named after one David S. Cohen's favorite theater professors of SUNY Albany, Yarka Burian. Okay. The scene in which... Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't care for that fact.
All right. Thanks for your input on Fun Facts.
We're going to do ratings on the facts now?
Yeah. We will take that into consideration and really do nothing about it. The scene in which Quark provides Galora, Olani, and Dejar with some Cardassian cuisine originally ended with Quark returning to the table. Seeing Dejar is the only one eating and offering some more food. Ulani then replies that more of the special Cardassian delicacies would be appreciated before Quark. Obvious to the underlying tension in the air, heads off saying, quote, "It's working," to himself. The rest of the scene was ultimately cut from the final episode, but can be read in the episode's script. So, Dave, for Star Trek Radio Theater, if we ever do this episode, we have to
We have to
include-
do an extended scene where Quark is more impressed about his prospects of expanding his Cardassian business.
You got it. Vedic Yarka, a spiritual leader in the Bajoran religion, is played by Eric Avari, who is also well known for playing Kusuf, a leader of the people of Abydos in Stargate and Stargate SG-1.
I know Stargate. What's that?
Another work where people know it way more than Babylon 5, and the premise is to travel through a wormhole.
I don't know about that. If Stargate's more.
It's
When's the last time you saw a
Stargate-
Babylon 5 cosplayer?
Stargate's like Babylon 5, only people watched it.
Wait, are there aren't Stargate cosplayers, are there?
He's not wrong.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. I see it all the time.
They're just. I only like the movie. I like Kurt Russell in the movie.
All of them have their own.
James Spader.
All of them have their own different, touches. Like so.
I'm more. Of a
I like
Babylon
Stargate
5
Universe, and people don't. So.
Babylon 5, Garibaldi. You got Londo Mollari. You got a lot of interesting characters. Okay, Jeff. Sorry.
Jeff, continue, please.
The prospect of introducing two sympathetic Cardassians was done as a way of showing there are different kinds of people in Cardassian society.
Okay.
I think it worked. I think,
It did work.
I think
Yeah, and
It-
when's the next time we see these people?
2/3 of them nice, 1/3 of them bad.
When do we see them again?
These two Cardassian women.
I think it goes to show that most of the time, the majority of people are
Never again.
generally good.
I got a question about that shuttle pod they were in.
Okay. What's your question?
It's the smallest little shuttle pod ever. Like they have runabouts on the station.
That's not a question.
Xenobots would be too big. They have to fit in between the three comments.
How did they even get in that thing? How did Cisco and Kira even get in that cockpit? It looked like they had to be like buttoned into it. It was so tight. It was like there was no door. They must have had to
They
enter.
scrunched down and they got beamed in.
I think they did.
It is tight.
Jeff, continue, please.
It is tight. I don't know why so tight, but yeah.
Yeah.
Dracora's fourth prophecy, which begins, quote, "The emissary will face a fiery trial and he will be forced to choose," end quote, may refer to the events in the series finale, What You Leave Behind. However, there are a number of other events, both immediately before and during the Dominion War, to which the prophecy could also apply. Most likely, it is a reference to the Pa Wraith taking over Jake and a prophet takes over Kira in the battle of in the Reckoning in the Battle of DS9.
Yeah, it's a few years from now. That's his fourth prophecy, huh?
Yeah.
Took some time off from the prophecy game.
And that is it for Double F Jeff.
All right. Well, you know what time it is then. It's time to rate this episode. And Jeff, do you want to get started?
I think I'm like a 6.8.
A 6.8. Okay.
I already got a feeling I'm probably gonna get the highest rating for this episode.
I'm probably a 6.
Lord.
Jaemeel, you're up.
7.3.
Okay. I'm not sure. 7.3. Kevin?
7.
Ashley gave 7.5.
Oh, I don't. Way to go, Ashley.
Okay, and then I'm just quickly looking up the IMDb, and looks like a 7.5. Okay,
7.5. Yeah.
all right. So we got the 6.9 average from the 5 of us, and a 7.5 IMDb. So it's
Dave, you dragged down that
Yeah,
that
you dragged it
average.
down.
I'm dragging it down where it belongs in substandard.
You liked Heart of Stone a full 2 points more than this episode.
I know
Yeah, you did.
that seems funny, doesn't it?
I liked Heart of Stone 7 points up more.
I was feeling more generous for Heart of Stone. I think it was mostly the Nog storyline that really made it better.
Yeah.
This didn't have that.
This episode is kind of like one story too. Like there's the B plot's really a part of the A plot, you know. So it's
But it doesn't take away from the A plot, and it provides. And I I think, an interesting dynamic of the A plot. So
Yeah, no, it does.
it's not a bad episode. It isn't like
it's middle of the road.
amazing or anything.
It's a middle of the road episode. You would never tell anyone this is the best episode of D9. You never tell anyone it's the worst.
No,
but you can give someone this episode and you have the elements of the entire series, and it isn't awful or embarrassing that like
it's
if you
it's missing key things for me. I mean, there's no Garrick. There's very little Bashir, really. There's very little
Odo and Quark relationship.
Yeah, there's no
Jake.
No Jake.
Oh, please stop the presses.
But there's no villains.
No Jake. Oh no.
There's no villains from the show.
All the Jake heads are like, "Where's Jake?"
There's
but this show doesn't need villains because
it has them though. It has the founder and Kai Wynn.
I know, but the episodes aren't good or bad based upon if there's a villain or not. It's the character interactions that I care more about.
Right. What comes
and the
next?
Choices they make.
Okay, so next week we have Profit Motive. We're going into the Ferengi territory.
Grand Nagus Zek,
is acting bizarre by giving away money and rewriting the rules of acquisition. Quark attempts to get the old Nagus back.
The episode starts with a reference to stem bolts. Just FYI.
Bashir is nominated for a prestigious medical award.
Oh yeah.
This is not a favorite of mine.
Dr. Wade is not going to win the Carrington.
I know you guys like the Ferengi stuff a lot, but it's never my favorite. When the Nagus comes around, I'm not a big fan of the Nagus.
I don't love the Nagus either.
Wallace Shaw, I like him.
If he's used in the right amount, but sometimes it's too much.
A full episode of him not my favorite. To rewatch.
It's coming up. It's coming up. So, FYI, he says. Who said FYI?
That's all. Okay.
I say it all the time. Thank you, KK. I appreciate it. He's looking out.
All right. Well, I think that might wrap it up here. Jeff, are you frozen?
I think he is.
So I think we might be wrapping up here. Oh,
he's back. Oh, audio.
And frozen again.
Love it.
Okay. Well, I think we might be wrapping up here on Live Long and Podcast with D Space 999-ish.
Dave, what's coming up?
Well, hey, we got KK's always got your back here on this given night. We also Wednesday night we do Star Trek the Original Series rewatches. We call them the Tet Trek Wednesdays at 8:00 now. We've been doing them at least until Big Brother comes back in July. So tomorrow we're going to be doing an episode called Dagger of the Mind. We've been watching every original series episode, not in order, and tomorrow is Dagger of the Mind, a season 1 episode. Also, we do Star Trek Radio Theater here on Live Long and Podcast. That's where we do script reads with some fun voices and different things. This Saturday night, we're going to be doing our next installment of Star Trek the Original Series. It was going to be the Square of Gothos, but there's just not enough lines to go around for that for the cast we have. So we're going to be doing instead, I think, Journey to Babel, which is the one where Spock's parents come to the ship. And we get the Tellarites and we get the Andorians and some others on that. So I think that should be fun. So we're going to do that on Saturday night. Get the cast together and all those things. Hopefully for tomorrow night's podcast, I'll be able to expand on that. Plus, we have 2 other channels. One called Trivial Debates. It's our monthly show. We do the last Sunday of the month where we argue about movies, TV, sports, and more. Jody Simpson set to host the next episode. And we're gonna have Adam Woodward involved. Jaemeel, are you available? I haven't even asked you.
That's a very good question. Am I available? We'll get back to you on that.
Back to me. Kevin, you haven't been on in a while.
Yeah, I could probably do it. I don't.
All right.
It's not like I'm doing anything else.
And that's how you get on this show. You just, if you're here at the right time when I bring it up, you might be a contestant. So So check that out. And then other channels, Super Mario Brothers Podcasting. That's all our content that's not Star Trek specific. Including we've done Big Brother Canada season 9. Jaemeel and I did 31 podcasts in a row. Hours and hours of us going on about Big Brother Canada 9. How can you turn that down?
I did. I was one of those people that turned that down.
He legit turned it down, folks.
Yeah, he was.
But he's going to be back on board July 7th.
Yeah, coming back. Big Brother USA coming out.
That's the one I watched. That's the one I watched. Zack Attack was my original.
Yeah,
was one of my original guys. I watched before that, but I like Zack Attack.
You would have liked Kiefer if you stuck with him.
Yeah, you would have been a Kiefer guy, maybe. All right, well, Jeff, that's it. So you can take us away.
Okay, well, catch us next time on Tuesdays Night at 9ish, where we break down profit motive. But for all of us here at the Vlogging Podcast, we say